kinds of different issues. There's nobody saying, please call an early election. The decision has been made by the provincial government. We are not going back to the RCMP. Full stop. International student system was working well, but over the last couple of years, just skyrocketing numbers, an incredible number of additional international students. The big problem with that is we can't guarantee that they have a positive experience here. The conditions of the housing they live in, employers taking advantage of them, the schools themselves taking advantage of these students, delivering a very poor education experience, or the students don't even show up for class.
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ, ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦਾ ਜਸਬੀਰ ਮਾਣਾ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਸਾਲ 2024 ਦੇ ਜਨਵਰੀ ਮਹੀਨੇ ਦੀ ਅੱਜ 26 ਤਰੀਕ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਹਫ਼ਤੇ ਦਾ ਆਖਰੀ ਦਿਨ ਹੈ ਸ਼ੁੱਕਰਵਾਰ। ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ 'ਚ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਬਾਤਾਂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਅੱਜ ਥੋੜ੍ਹਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਵਿਸ਼ੇਸ਼ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮਿੰਗ ਹੈ। ਸਟੂਡੀਓ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੇਹੱਦ ਮਹੱਤਵਪੂਰਨ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ। ਸਾਡੇ ਸੂਬੇ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਡੇਵਿਡ ਈਬੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸਟੂਡੀਓ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਿਰਕਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਕੁਝ ਮਿੰਟਾਂ ਲਈ ਆਪਾਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਮਿਸਟਰ ਈਬੀ, ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ, ਵੈਲਕਮ ਟੂ ਦ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ।
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, Dr. Romano. Good to see you. Good afternoon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being in the studio.
Thanks for having me.
First thing that whenever I talk about provincial politics, people ask me nowadays, elections are happening on time? Or other day when I was talking to Mr. Rusted and Mr. Kevin Falcon, they suspect that, no, that may not be true. That can be a bit earlier as well.
Yeah, Dr. Romano, I laugh a little bit because I can't count the number of times I've said, but I talked to British Columbians about all, and so they're saying, please help us address the issues of housing, affordability, transportation issues, you name it. And so my commitment to British Columbians is we're going to the fixed election date. Mr. Falcon, Mr. Rustad will have all the time they need to get themselves sorted out, get ready for the election. That's when it'll be held. And that's when British Columbians will make their decision about which party is best suited, which leader is best suited to address the big challenges that our province faces.
It'll be quite an advantage for you if you make announcement in April or May somewhere. Because they are still bifurcated and they may get together, particularly advantages. Don't you want to avail that opportunity?
Yeah, I think when I was sworn in, people who spend their lives organizing elections and thinking about elections are like, you should have an election. And I think it's pretty obvious that would not have been a good time to call election for a bunch of reasons. And the reality is it's so hard to predict what's going to happen in the province, issues that are going to come up, how politics is going to bounce. The only thing I think that the best thing that I can do is just be focused on the issues that matter to people, to recognize the massive privilege and opportunity that people have given me to be able to do this job, to look after their interests, and to go to the fixed election date and have them make a decision at that time.
You're already Premier of BC, but fact is that this is the first time ever you'll go in the election under the garb that you are going to be a real elected and people's choice premier. Do you find any difference between these two scenarios?
Yeah, I do think it's important that I have a mandate from British Columbians voting for the party with me as the leader for the work that we have to get done. I mean, whether you're talking about healthcare and just the ability of people to get the care they need when they need it, or whether you're talking about cost of living issues or housing, the changes, the work we have to do requires checking in with the people, making sure we're headed in the right direction. And that's an important part of British Columbia. It's important for me to know I have the support of British Columbians to do this work.
You had important portfolios before you became Premier, and now you've been working for many, many months as a Premier as well. Are you satisfied with the job you did? Are you satisfied with the issue you handle sitting on the chair?
Yeah, I just marked my 1 year in this role. And when I was sworn in, I committed to work on a few key issues to show British Columbians where we were heading on those issues and to seek their support when we came to the fixed election date. And so, for example, around the issue of housing, the changes we've made around allowing people to build more than one unit on a single-family lot, addressing Airbnb issues and empty homes used for investments, and speeding up provincial processes, just one example. I am pleased with where we've come, but I'm nowhere near satisfied. These issues of housing, healthcare, cost of living, these are deeply entrenched issues, often North America-wide issues. And we have a lot more work to do. So there's a significant reason to go back to the people and say, who's in the best position to be able to take us forward on these issues? Are you satisfied with the direction that I've set as leader? You can see the work that's going on in the province: new hospitals, new roads, new transit, new schools. Is this the direction you want to keep going?
I think it's too early to ask you, but let's assume that you got another chance to be in the seat for Premier. What will be your priorities next term, or nothing's going to change?
I think that this province deserves consistency in addressing the big challenges we face. These are not problems that get solved overnight. These are not the low-hanging fruit kind of issues that we dealt with when we were first elected, the tolls or MSP, things that can be changed quickly overnight. These are long-term and entrenched issues, and having big swings back and forth between extreme political views, it may work for the United States, but I don't think it will suit British Columbia well. And so what I'll be bringing forward, and the offering our party will bring forward, is if you support our work in delivering for you the key pieces you need to have a good life for you and your family in the province, the schools, the health care, addressing costs to help keep things under control for you and your family, then we're your party. If you want big culture war battles that are ripping the United States apart, there are other options available to you, specifically the BC Conservative Party. I think it would be a huge mistake for us to head in that direction.
When I think you went on record to comment on the relationship between federal government and the provincial government, and there was a little bit of unease as well in the last Premier's meet. And so I want to find out what are the different issues that you are concerned about as far as the relationship of federal government and the provincial government is concerned.
Yeah, I think when I meet with the federal government, my main message to them is don't forget about the province on Canada's west coast. In Ottawa, it is too easy for the federal government to be focused on Ontario. They're literally in Ontario or Quebec. They're right next to Quebec. And then the Conservative premiers who are constantly doing really, I think, bizarre things, frankly. And so all of the airspace can get sucked up. And so what we've done is focused on being in Ottawa more often in front of the federal ministers, in front of the Prime Minister on our priorities. One of the successes we had was encouraging them to fix their bail rules to make sure that repeat violent offenders are not waiting for their trials out in the community, committing more violent offenses. And we still got more work to do with them. We do not get our fair share of housing money. We do not get our fair share of federal money, period, and resources. When we look at what Ontario gets, what Quebec gets, what the maritime provinces get. So we'll keep pushing them on that and make sure that the priorities of British Columbians are right front and center for the federal government.
Does it make you a little bit upset when the federal government, they have some novel approach of dealing with the municipality straight?
The thing that frustrates me about the federal government's going straight to the cities is the reason they're doing that is because in other provinces, they don't have housing programs the way that we do in British Columbia, or they don't have healthcare programs or childcare programs the way that we do in British Columbia. And so they design these things for the rest of Canada. But for us in BC, we've got these places to plug in. And for them to go in and do their own program means it doubles the administration, it doubles the headaches for people trying to access the money, it duplicates our efforts, and it's the outcomes are not as good. And so for British Columbians, we want them to, they don't care if it's the federal government or the provincial government that's supporting them in, for example, getting into actually affordable housing. And so for us, we want to be seamless for people. We want it to be super easy for them, that they don't have to fill out a separate form for the feds and the province and this and that. And so that's our focus with them is really like, let's work together on these things and make it easy for the residents of British Columbia.
One issue that we've been discussing for many months now is the transition in City of Surrey, the police RCMP and SPS issue. And yesterday, actually, we were talking with Mr. Farnworth as well, with the SPS giving us a new projection about the budget and all that. And today, Mayor Brenda Locke was saying that nothing has changed. It won't change anything. Our approach will be same. I just want to find out, province is adamant that whatever decision was taken previously by Mr. Farnworth, it will stay like that, or there's still room for negotiation and still room for some sort of common sense to prevail? Because wherever we go, people are kind of frustrated with this issue now, and they don't know who to blame.
Yeah, the people of Surrey deserve to have this issue just settled once and for all. I wouldn't blame anyone in Surrey for rolling their eyes when they hear about this issue again. The decision has been made by the provincial government. We are not going back to the RCMP, full stop, period. The mayor, I think, at one point, raised an important issue. How much is this going to cost? Is this going to result in tax increases for the people of Surrey, for businesses in Surrey? That answer has been definitively given. Deloitte, a world-renowned accounting firm, has audited the budget of the proposed budget of the Surrey Police Service. It fits within the allocated money that Surrey has for policing. A tax increase is not required. The mayor's question has been answered. Her question about where the police officers are going to come from, the training, has been answered. She should not be spending money on consultants, on lawyers, on advertising, delaying a transition that is going to happen, because all it's going to do is increase costs if it takes longer. We need a good partner at the table. I call the mayor to work with Minister Farnworth and get this done, and accept that she fought a good fight to reverse her own decision, but that fight is over. And we need to move on. We need to deal with this.
These disagreements are real disagreements, or sometimes I find that this is more about invisible political games as well. How do you see it?
It is inexplicable to me. I do not understand why this is still happening, why the mayor is putting so many resources into advertising and lawsuits, and when it is so clear what the law says. It is so clear what her responsibilities are, which are ensuring public safety for the people of Surrey, and it is so clear what the provincial government direction is, and also what the costs are that are associated with this. So if something else is driving it, then that would certainly explain it. But I don't understand why we're not able to sit down around a table, work it out, and just move forward on this for the people of Surrey, get it done.
Did she ever try talking to you as a premier about this issue, or did she get enough time, or I'm just curious to find out?
She has, and I've been very supportive of making sure that the mayor has all the information she needs. So, for example, she has had the Surrey Police Service budget for 8 weeks with the information that there's no need for a tax increase, and we sat by quietly while she said there was going to need to be this massive tax increase on people, and we know she had the budget, and we know that the numbers were audited, and finally we had to just release it and say enough is enough. We have to tell the people of Surrey that this is all within the budget and is all very achievable and is going to happen.
We heard from the federal government about the cap on the international students now. International students, it's a federal issue, but their favorite place to come and live and work and study is BC or Brampton area, that area. So there are so many issues that people talk about that they're associated with the international students influx, huge numbers, housing affordability and jobs and so many other things. How do you see this cap and future of international students in our universities? And I think today even there was one university, the huge news story about that, but they're running short of funds now because they're worried about this cap.
Yeah, the cap is going to have a significant financial impact, particularly on a large number of private institutions in British Columbia. But there's no question there's a serious issue here. Just a couple of years ago, the numbers were far more under control. The international student system was working well, but over the last couple of years, just skyrocketing numbers, an incredible number of additional international students. The big problem with that is we can't guarantee that they have a positive experience here. The conditions of the housing they live in, employers taking advantage of them, the schools themselves taking advantage of these students, delivering a very poor education experience, or the students don't even show up for class, and they're paying tuition essentially to be able to go out and work. All of these are big problems, and the volume of people means it's very difficult for the province to be able to ensure that they're not exploited. So we're supportive of the federal government taking this step. We're going to have to work with the schools to be able to minimize impact, especially on public post-secondary schools, universities, and colleges. But the goal I think all of us should have is a positive experience for these students when they're here, and minimal impact on communities that are hosting these students and are glad to see them, but haven't been able to handle the numbers that we've seen.
The last question is about Soji. We had a few meetings with the education minister as well, and we did many shows on this subject. My personal feeling is that this is an excellent idea to include everybody, and so that it helps to stop the bullying of those kids. But do you think it's a kind of we need to do more to make people and parents understand the situation more, because some parents are very panicky? That's my last question.
Yeah, I've been really frustrated. There are some people out there, especially in politics, that have been taking advantage of new arrival parents in a new school system. Mm-hmm. They want their kids to be safe. They don't. They look to elected officials, people in positions of authority, for advice about what's happening at the schools, and they've been exploited by these politicians for political gain. Mm-hmm. And the biggest problem with it is that the teachers and librarians at the schools are not the threat to the kids. Mm-hmm. They're the ones who respond when there's bullying. They're the ones who help kids to be safe online. We had an announcement today with two parents from Prince George, Ryan and Nicola Cleland, whose son was contacted by a predator on his cell phone through mm-hmm. Snapchat. Mm-hmm. And within 12 hours, this 12-year-old kid had taken his own life because this person had posed as a young woman the same age as Colson. He had sent her pictures and then found out that it was a grown man mm-hmm. that was exploiting him for money and was threatening to send pictures to his family and friends, and he took his own life. This is the threat to our kids. This is why we did the announcement today about restricting cell phones in schools, mm-hmm. about going after the social media companies that are feeding up with their algorithms this extreme content for our kids, without safety, allowing strangers from around the world to contact a child, ask for a picture, and threaten them on their platforms. And so we're taking the steps to make sure that when this happens, we get the court orders to take the pictures off of the internet, that there's the education for parents around technology, that there's the support for them in these challenging conversations with their kids, that because cell phones are restricted, they don't face that peer pressure. Every kid's got a cell phone. I need one too. Mm-hmm. And finally, that these companies that are serving up this environment for these predators are held accountable for their actions. This is the danger for our kids. And this is what it looks like when a government acts to protect kids, not what we're seeing around Soji.
And quickly, last one, actually I lied before, is that you were visiting many countries, 3-4 countries with your whole team. And is there any program visiting India, Punjab, along with your Minister of State and Trade Minister and all that? So is there any plan in the future?
Well, the relationship with India is a really important one for British Columbia. Mm-hmm. The interpersonal ties, the cultural ties, the remarkable relationship that people have, and the economic impact on our province is huge. Mm-hmm. I have a significant anxiety about Canada's relationship with India right now. Mm-hmm. The allegations that the Indian government was involved in the murder of a British Columbian, mm-hmm. and which were underlined by charges in the United States as well. It's not the right time for a visit to India. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean I don't value the relationship, but it is critical that we see support and cooperation from the Indian government to get the bottom of what happened. And also, it's important that when we sort that out, when we address that issue, mm-hmm. That we don't let it come between the people who live here and the people they love that live in India, so that they're able to get back for the weddings and the funerals and the celebrations back and forth, and we continue to build our relationship. This is a year of an election for India. Mm-hmm. It is a very important year. It's a year of election in British Columbia. I think there are elections around the world this year in major democracies. Mm-hmm. It's a time for us to reflect on how important and sacred that freedom, those rights are. And
by the way, it's a Republic Day.
And it's Republic Day in India. And we will be able to deal with these things. We will be able to get past these things. We will be able to address these things. And I really hope that we are able to.
Mr. Eby, I just want to thank you for being in the studio and giving us enough time and chatting with our team. And you have a great team as well. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much for having me.